On February 9th of 2004, 21-year-old UMass student Maura Murray drove from her dorm in Amherst, Massachusetts to the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura spun out her 1996 Saturn on a hairpin turn on Route 112 in North Haverhill. There has never been a credible sighting of Maura since.
Maura is 5 foot 7 inches tall. She weighs 120 pounds, and she has brown hair and hazel eyes.
If you have any information regarding Maura's disappearance, please submit it to us, the Murray family through their Facebook page, or the New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit.
This is Missing Maura Murray. Welcome back to the Missing Maura Murray podcast. I'm Tim here today with Lance in the Crawl Space Studios in Wormtown. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing so well. How are you today?
I am so well as well, Lance. And for this episode today, we are bringing you an episode that we produced for Crawl Space for this week. And we're not doing a new Missing Maura Murray episode this week on this channel. I guess you can call this our holiday break. We will be back next week with new content. Mm-hmm. And so this episode is with our friend Jenny Carrieri, and we also did an episode with Jenny back in, I think it was August, that aired on this feed. So that's another reason why we're putting this audio here, because if you heard that, maybe you want to hear this sort of as a follow-up or as a sequel to that episode.
Yeah, Jenny is a warrior, and any chance that we get to speak with her, we take advantage of. She has been looking into the murder of her sister, Jody LeCornu, and right outside of Baltimore, and she's made it her life mission. She's put up billboards. Her face is always out there. She's always fighting for justice for her sister. So again, any chance we have to talk to her and get the, keep that profile raised is we take advantage of.
And something else, Lance, that has been keeping us busy this week is that we have been allowed to add our archive, our original episode archive, back to the public feeds. So now you can listen to every single episode of Missing Maura Murray, every single episode of Crawl Space, and every single episode of Empty Frames, our art crime show. There are links to each show in the show notes. All episodes are back. It's very exciting for us.
I would say that I agree with everything except for we were allowed. We actually strong-armed our way into the corporate overlord's office, and we said, the public demands this.
That's true.
And we are not leaving here. We are locking the doors, and we are not leaving here until we have access to everything we've created so we can answer that call.
And the episodes are now kind of cataloged a little bit better than they were before. I noticed some complaints in the iTunes comments about it being a little confusing what episode is what. Now you can look at the entire Missing Maura Murray catalog and look at episodes that are specifically Missing Maura Murray episodes. And you can look at the Crawl Space Brianna Maitland series. There's also 3 episodes of a Brandon Lawson series. And so we're going to add some other stuff too. And anything that says, like, say, Killer on the Parkway, that is not a Missing Maura Murray episode, but it is something that we want to bring to this feed. So we'd love it if you listen to all of it, but we understand if you're only here for a certain aspect of it. But now the choice is yours. You can listen to whatever you want. You can re-binge if you listen to some of these episodes back in 2015. But also, you can go back and check out the entire series of Brianna Maitland and so forth.
Yeah, I think the option's there for you. So now you have it. The case with Maura, her case is at a point where we also felt that it was very important to get all of those episodes back up there so people could listen to it and people could experience sort of the journey of where you're at with this case. A lot of people are introduced to this case on a daily basis, and to jump in, I mean, the podcast medium is something where people gather information from. They go to this show to get information about the case, and sometimes that information needs clarification later on, and when you have a piece of it, right now that needs to be clarified in 2 months, you want to know that both of those episodes are there, because if you need to properly process this case, you really need all of the information. And hopefully this is a step in the right direction. Well, not hopefully. I think that this is definitely a step in the right direction, and also, to make it available to the public, even on the level of, like you said, Killer on the Parkway. You don't want something like that buried. It is on the feed. It doesn't have to do with Maura Murray, but it is a case that we are passionate about.
Yeah, and it involves a couple of missing people, and so I think that's mostly what we're doing here with this feed now. Is it's mostly our missing person feed, and Crawl Space is kind of everything else. But occasionally you'll find random episodes on the Missing Maura Murray feed, and yeah, again, we appreciate it if you listen to it. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
That's not fine.
And we wanted to let you know that we're going to be bringing you a mini series on the unsolved murder of Sheila Shepherd. So that will actually make this Missing Maura Murray feed as well as our Crawl Space feed. And you'll find some feed drops on the feed here occasionally because, well, honestly, they help keep the lights on.
Yep.
And so there's actually one that hit the feed today from Wondery. But Wondery produces great shows. I'm sure you're aware. You probably subscribe to many Wondery shows if you're listening to this already. So hopefully that's a bit of welcome audio.
And anything that we put on this show as a feed for another show is going to be something that we think is in everyone's wheelhouse. It's going to be something that's within the same genre for the most part.
Okay, everybody. So please, I hope you enjoy this episode with Jenny Carrieri. Of course, her twin sister, Jenny LeCornu, was murdered, and she is fighting for justice for Jody. So please follow Jenny on Twitter. Check out justiceforjody.com. Welcome to Crawl Space, Jenny Carrieri. How are you tonight, Jenny?
Oh, I'm doing good now that I'm with you guys.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us here. In the past, 2 or 3 weeks, we've had all of the superstars, the relentless rock stars of this whole true crime genre on. We had Kelsey German on. We had Sarah Turney. Now we have you. I feel like we're it's like Christmas coming early for us.
We should all get together. Let's all get together like you were talking about.
Yeah, and we had Bill Thomas on too, just like a month or 6 weeks ago, and we had planned to have you four to the American Crime Festival in November, but obviously that didn't happen. So that panel with the four of you that was going to be moderated by Mike Morford, that didn't happen. So we should really revisit that idea and see if we can make that happen.
Let's do it before summer.
All right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'll put a call out to the people. This is a call to action. If anyone knows a good location, a nice intimate venue, feel free to ping us.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, I'm on it.
So, Jenny, you are so busy with your pursuit for justice in your sister's murder, and you recently did a show with Oxygen. It's called Relentless with Kate Snow. I just watched it. Well done. Great job.
Thank you.
Our friends at Oxygen did it again. How was that? What was that like?
It was amazing. They did such a great job, and they reached out to me, Kate Snow, I believe it was one of her assistants, early on in March. They were talking about the show, and that it was based on solved cases, but they really wanted to get Oxygen to do Jody's case. So I didn't even think that it would happen, since all of the shows, like I said, were solved. And when they called me back, I was really excited about it, because any chance I can get her story out there, I just jump on it no matter what. And so it was a lot of work, but just amazing. The crew, everybody. I went up there first and met with Kate, and she was lovely, and I felt like she was my sister. She was so sweet, and just such a great person. And just, you just felt so comfortable with her. I walked into the room, and they, as far as what colors you're going to wear and all this, and we had the same color shirt on, and she's like, "Don't worry, I'll change." And she was just very sweet, and but
that's nice.
Yeah, she was great, and we actually did the interview in New Jersey, and they pick a studio, And then they came down. She didn't come down, but her crew came down and interviewed me and my mom and my husband, and they were here for I think over a week or so, because we did the billboards in the
Oh, wow.
cemetery, and they came to my house. They did a lot of different, they interviewed David Collins, who's been a huge support for me in Baltimore, one of the with WBAL for years. He's been really helpful
Right.
and advocating for me. And my lawyer that I had with the lawsuit, they interviewed him, and then Steve Janis, who's another reporter. He's with the Real News Network. He was with Fox 45 for a while, but he's been huge. I think, yeah, if you guys remember, he was one of the other ones in the show. But they were just great. I mean, the producer, Chris, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Seguilia, was just phenomenal. And I mean, it just, yeah. I mean, even though it was uh, sad at times, we're talking but they just made it really just a really, really good experience. And I'm really grateful, like the outcome. And I'm very happy with Oxygen. And if they want me I'll do anything else with them.
I'm wondering how you managed to muster up the energy to do this. It's your sister was tragically murdered in 1996, and you, again, I keep using the word relentless. That was obviously the name of the show on Oxygen, but you just like you motivated me. Like you watch that, and there's this motivation, just like the strength that you have. How have you done that
I think
over
it's
so many
borderline
years? Is it
borderline
how do you reach
crazy.
back and get that?
I sometimes wonder, um, what did Lester Holt, when I did my interview with him, he said something very funny, like, I don't know, I'm obsessed. But I mean, oh, I'm just, nothing will stop me. And I mean, that's good and cannot be good, because I'm just, I've just made the decision that I will go to any lengths to find her killer. And the more, what's the word? I can't think of the word because it's been a long day. The lack of support that I get from Baltimore, it just motivates me even more, from the police and everything. And,
Yeah.
they all like to put out there, the police department. I've met, in the governor's office and the county executive, everybody's behind me and wants to help me. But I mean, the bottom line is it's 23 and a half years later, and we're still in the same spot. And, with all the investigative, you know, everything I've done over the years, just seeing just things not happen, people that were interviewed that weren't interviewed that they said were interviewed, and very upsetting. And it just I mean, I'm not always doing well. I mean, I'm falling apart a lot. I struggle with my own personal issues, and it's been a huge what's the word? Stress on my marriage, my family. We were watching the show Friday night with my husband. He was part of it. When we watched it, and he got upset and stormed out of the room because he's very upset that for several reasons, that I'm open about my life, what I've been through. And I just, made a couple years ago, made a decision that, I mean, that I would just be open about what happened. I mean, with the struggles Jody and I had, and
Yeah.
things that had happened when we were growing up. And it's just, you spend, for me, so many years trying to hide so many things with our family and our life and everything, and that it just gets exhausting. And this is me, and if people don't like me, then what can I do? I've struggled and I still struggle. But yeah, he doesn't like that all to be out there. But the bottom line is it's 2019, and everybody's got some sort of struggles in their life. I would think at least some, in their family. And so he wasn't
Yeah.
happy about that. And he wasn't happy about, because he told me not to speak to the prisoner. And I told him I wouldn't. And I did. But that's, what I'm talking about. Like, I'll go to any lengths. And it's just that I don't know. Maybe some people might think it's careless, but I don't know. It's like I'm not afraid. I mean, I went from this I mean, for years, I was terribly just anxious. I mean, I still struggle with the anxiety, but I was worried, with her manner of death and just, I mean, I couldn't even be in a room by myself. And now it's almost like I feel invincible or something. Like I'm gonna go, and if somebody's gonna try to stop me, does that make sense? I just,
Yeah,
I,
your pursuit has given you strength.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. But I mean, and he
Yeah,
does.
you're like fueling yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe I should be more cautious. Something David Collins said in the interview, because I didn't see all these interviews about how, if something about they're not going to want you around, and I thought, oh, did you see that part? You remember that part? They said
Yeah.
if you, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just don't have that fear. Maybe I should. What do you
No,
think?
no,
What do you
I
think?
don't think you should. I mean, how many of these other cases that we talk about and you've seen and Tim's seen that just go in one direction because people have been conservative in their approach and they're afraid to talk about things that law enforcement doesn't want them to talk about simply out of
Right.
pride. So, and approaching suspects and going to visit someone in prison. I mean, a lot of that I feel like, and I'm probably, I don't know if I'm like totally wrong on it, but I feel like a lot of that is kind of an unofficial breach of the line between citizen and law enforcement. And that line is only there due or mostly there due to pride. And if you have the courage to cross it, I think people just don't have a
Yeah.
choice in that
I mean, the bottom line
situation.
is if I felt, I mean, this wasn't my plan to be doing all of this, but if I felt that it was it, that if the investigation was, if they were working, if they were thoroughly investigating everything and doing everything that I've seen and learned and and like I wouldn't be doing all these things, going out doing all these things, but I just feel
Right.
like I need to be doing this and be all, like pressure on them, and they say that I criticize them and say stuff. I mean, I do. I mean, but I don't mean to. But I'm angry. I'm upset. I mean, I lost my twin. I've spent all these years without her.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I mean, I've never felt the same. I mean, my life completely changed that day, and it's I've never wake up without tons of gratitude, but it's I'm sad a lot and angry and feel that um that for me to be active and trying to make things happen, I think her case definitely still would be sitting in the closet like they told me years ago.
Well, I think what you've done in publicizing the case is absolutely remarkable. So
Oh,
please
thank
keep that up. I
you.
think it's incredible, and I think it's natural to butt heads with law enforcement if you're going about your pursuit of justice like you are, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean you're ruffling some feathers, like like you understand that you are, and that's fine. That's good. They need that.
Yeah. And I don't have a mean bone in my body. I mean, I'm actually, you heard they call me Jenny the Wimp. Like I'm very nice and kind and a people pleaser and I want to make everybody happy and I don't like conflict, but like really this has just turned me into this just person that I'm like, I am not, pardon my, you can bleep this out. I'm not going to be fucked with anymore. Like I'm done. I'm done. And it just
Yeah.
it's very frustrating, and I just feel like they just say what I want to hear, when at this point, I just had a meeting a little while ago with them and it's just the same, yeah,
Oh,
but it's like
good.
the same
That's
thing, it's like and there's
Yep.
just so much that I've learned and I know, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And then when I have people from like every interview I've done, I mean, people all over, people write me letters, people reach out to me on social media. They say, this something's not right. I mean, I've never had one person say, um, Yeah, they're do I think everything seems right with this case. I mean, I've never you know what I mean? I mean, and that's just that doesn't help, that like I said, to get random people from across the country. I mean, I did this documentary for a friend. I've done a few things. France is like obsessed with true crime. I did this documentary, and that's going to come out in December. I mean, even the people I worked with there, I mean, they're in another country. I mean, it's just what it is, what's not right with the case, I don't know.
Can we talk about the actual murder scene a little bit, because we were talking right before we started rolling, and based on your appearance on Relentless with Kate Snow, I really loved the episode, but the animations that they did to depict the murder, the shot, and then how Jody drove away, and then the killer followed her and wasn't like speeding, like he followed her and then parked next to her, got out, reached in, took something, got back in, and probably put the car in park after it had hit a curb, and Jody had she was shot through the back, and so I think she was not really moving much, I guess, at that point.
Correct.
So I think that part is really peculiar for most people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from being in the one parking lot to driving across all the lanes with the severed spine, and him just following her over there, and sitting at the entrance of the lot while she drove around. And then, to reach once she hit the curb I believe that's probably when she died, but him reaching over her body and putting her car in park. I mean, I just had another person just reach out to me just the other day. Like, there's only one type of person that would put a car in park, uh, um, and this person wants me to call them. So, like I said, there's always like people like, this is what it is, like they just think that it's odd. I mean, like, do you think that's odd?
Extremely.
Yeah.
I mean, after the initial attack is not 100% successful, it becomes extremely, extremely odd that the follow-up happened.
Right.
What type of person sees it through so thoroughly?
I mean, some people think it was a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys? Do
Yeah.
you guys have a thought? I mean,
Well, I mean, would it be like a mistaken hit? Was there like connections there?
I don't know. I mean,
It does sound like, if you were to read this in like a Scorsese script, it sounds
right.
like something that would be in a Scorsese. And I'm not trying to be funny, but it sounds like something that's like stereotypical.
It's not your normal. I mean, like if it was a robbery and they say her window was rolled down, why didn't he just put the gun up to her and say, "Give me your money"? Why shoot her from behind, follow her with people around? Even though it was in the middle of the night, they said the Giant, it was 24 hours, that was open. There was people at the Boston market unloading the truck. I mean, there was clearly people around.
And you still don't know what he took out of the car, if anything. Is it confirmed that he took something out of the car?
It's so bizarre the way that they've said it over the years, or like something was taken out of her car, but there was no purse in the car. So did she have a purse? I'm sure she did have a purse, or maybe her wallet,
Oh,
something
okay.
with her. But they said that wasn't that something was taken out, but that wasn't there.
They had never been specific about the purse, so maybe it could have been more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're very vague about it. And then they said, the phone, oh, well, they didn't say this, but she had that bag phone my parents got her because they were really worried about her being in Baltimore. And so then later on, they said that was missing too. So that's a lot to grab, right? I mean, they grabbed the phone, I mean, I don't know.
Were they perhaps saying something like that as a way to bait the perpetrator?
I mean, it's hard to say. All we know is what they tell us, so that's why, because they won't show us any records. I mean, they won't even show us the original police report. And what made me really mad in seeing that show, and I love their PI spokesman. He's a really nice guy, and a lot of people say he's a patsy. He just like he just says what he's such like a really nice guy, but I mean, I think he just says what they want him to say, and he said, when asked, with the crime scene photos, why didn't they put out more stuff early on? And what he said was they hold things out in an investigation, so they don't put a description of the vehicle. Like, I mean, they do that all the time on TV. Like a child is missing, or there's something going. They always have a description of a vehicle, right? Like that, I just thought that was so odd.
They never had a description of the killer's vehicle?
They didn't put the photos out till 20 years later to the media. Like they wouldn't
Yeah.
put them out. But the description of the suspect's car, Jody's car, like they didn't put it out till 20 years later. And they said, "Oh, it's because we hold things in an investigation." But maybe that would have helped early on, right?
Sure.
Right. What's the time frame on that? Like maybe after like a year. No one said, "Hey, what if we try this?"
Right.
It took 20 years.
But like the description of if they put out a picture of what the witnesses described of this BMW, it seems like that would have jogged somebody's brain early on, don't you think? If they put the picture of that out
Absolutely.
early on, so it's just very odd. They won't even give my family the photos, but they'll give them to People magazine, and
Right.
yeah, it's very odd.
This is the Baltimore County Police Department.
Correct. Yeah. So she died. Apparently, she died. It's the line right there. She died in the city and then drove over to the county. So the county took the police. But I don't know if you ever heard about how the city offered to help. The police chief sent me a handwritten letter of Baltimore City,
Tell us about that. That's interesting.
where they have like how many murders a day. I mean, the county has. I mean, this was years ago. I mean, the county's gotten a little bit more, but nothing compared to Baltimore City, where people are just being shot all the time. But the police chief several years back from Baltimore City offered his assistance. His department stands by, my family and wants to help. And Baltimore County told him to butt out.
Well, that sounds so stereotypical.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds so stereotypical. Again, if you were reading this as some screenplay, it would sound like, and this is just me saying that this is what it sounds like. Baltimore, just riddled with violence, right? Just ripe for violence in the mid 90s.
Right.
Everything from gangland stuff to the mafia. I mean, drugs. And then you have this hit style, and then the police are just like, "Hey, butt out." It's like a bad screenplay.
It is. I mean, and it's. I mean, you don't hear good things about Baltimore. I mean, sadly, I mean, did you guys see The Keepers?
Yeah.
The Keepers. Oh yeah, with the
Gemma Hoskins. Yeah.
The nuns.
we literally just said her name and I just drew a blank. Yeah, Gemma.
Did you?
Yeah.
How crazy was that?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, that's crazy.
so I mean, and I just hear. I mean, I've heard of several other cases, where people have tried to deal with the police. I mean, that's the problem. Is there's no, like, who polices the police, right? I mean, it's we're at their. It's like they have her case hostage,
Right.
right?
Well, that's so interesting because they have hundreds and hundreds of cases. Like, why this one?
Exactly. Like, why are they not solving it? Like, I mean, that's what some of these reporters have said. It's like they don't want to solve it.
Yeah. I just want to make a quick point of something that you brought up earlier, and I didn't want to forget about it. And we can get back to the actual crime itself. But I mean, hearing you talk like this and all the frustration, and then hearing you talk about your husband walking out of the room because it upset him that you were doing certain things. It's not a cliche that when something like this happens, it's not only one victim. It's a ripple effect that's like dozens of victims. And I mean, Tim and I are about as far removed from this as possible, and it's even like getting my anxiety going. So
Oh, wow.
it's this whole like ripple effect that happens.
It is. That's such a good point. That's wow.
Well, I mean, we keep seeing it over and over and over, and it's so common that it just starts to feel like this, cliche. And I just feel the need to reiterated as much as possible that it's not just one person and it's not just immediate family. It goes into, I mean, we just talked about how like this is like could be this weird corruption thing and a mistaken hit. It's, I mean, and it's been so long.
Well, actually, so I wanted to talk more about that, the possible mistaken hit. Jenny, I hadn't known after our first conversation on that we aired on Missing Maura Murray. I hadn't known that your father was a prosecutor. I either forgot that or didn't know until I watched Relentless with Kate Snow. But what do you think about that? Do you think there's any connection there?
I think it's I don't rule anything out. I mean, he did. He spent years prosecuting drug and violent crime, and we had a neighbor across the street from us growing up that prosecuted somebody, and he, when we were younger, I remember this always was kind of in my mind, but he was one of the people that he prosecuted was it was like harassing the wife or doing some stuff that, like, I'll never forget about that. Like, threatening her or something. There was something going on. So I like I said, I don't rule anything out. But my dad he was a very kind gentleman, but he did put people in prison, lock them up, prosecute them. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely an interest. I mean, there's so many angles to it.
right.
She and her
And
boyfriend getting
I
into a
would
fight. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we spent some time on that last interview, but I also think it's really interesting to the point of a possible mistaken hit that the killer doesn't like go much faster than he just normally. It's almost like he's going about his business quite literally. Like he's not in a rush, maybe because he knows he's not going to get recognized and connected to Jody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's not afraid because he's got protection.
Yeah, I mean, if I shot Lance and people saw, they'd probably be able to connect that because we know each other and spend time together,
Mhm.
But if there's no connection there,
Right.
you wouldn't necessarily rush out of there. Maybe I don't know. Like he seemed like he had to go over there and check and make sure his job was complete.
Right. Because don't you think what I said, if he was trying to rob her, that he would have done it right in that first parking lot where wasn't the 24-hour giant and the other people? The,
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a couple of different types of, or several different types of criminals. And if he's approaching her to rob her and it goes wrong the first time, I think that type of criminal who's just doing like a smash and grab
right.
would take off. They'd be gone. They don't want to get caught. Also, interesting point about it being the hit and your father. I would think, though, that if someone were to do that, it would be a way to send a message. And if your message, if you're not claiming responsibility for the crime, how where's the message going? No one came forward and said, consider that a warning. You know what I mean? Or that was for this guy that you put in prison. If you're not claiming responsibility for it, then the message is kind of moot. It's
yeah,
it's kind of silly.
yeah. That's a good point.
That is a good point. But do you, I mean, would you definitely put robbery as not a motive? Because I go through this, I can't tell you how many times in my head still all the time. I lay in bed at night, and run through these scenarios in my head.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Would you rule out robbery or would you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, was there any indication that there were maybe, I'm not saying this in any way to disparage her, but was there any talk of drugs? Was there anything about, like, could they try to be stealing some drugs or instead of the money?
And that's the thing. So, and I don't, and well, first of all, I have people say, oh, you shouldn't, um, it makes me angry. I've had people come up to me, you shouldn't talk about um, the drugs or it being like a drug scenario because then people won't take it seriously, and it just upsets me. She definitely, we both struggled when we were young in high school, and but for her, she was an alcoholic. She struggled with alcohol. I honestly, in my heart, don't. and we were not living together at the time, but did not believe that she was doing drugs. There was no drugs in her system for years. I mean, I didn't know about her. I mean, so like when she got out of high school, I mean, I know, I mean, I think maybe when she got out of the treatment, she smoked pot, but she never got into, but it was alcohol. I mean, she struggled terribly with anxiety, and it was like she was medicating herself, and it was so sad. I mean, she was such a beautiful person and just struggled so deeply, and her boyfriend, they both, I mean, that was their relationship. They just drank, and so she was in a bar that was known. I mean, it was her local tavern where she felt comfortable. I mean, she never really went out of her element. She went to her work. She had lots of friends. She went to this bar. She also was also known that she really kind of had a crush on the owner. That's another angle to it too. And her boyfriend didn't like her being there at that bar. That it was known that at that time you could get the bar was no, I guess like any other bar, you could get drugs there. So for her being so afraid, as my mother would say, she was afraid of her closet, to just go out in the middle of the night so this is my thing on the drug thing. I'm sorry, it's taking a long time, but like if she was like, "Oh my gosh, my boyfriend, we got into a fight. It's the end of the world," and you have that feeling where you just like can't, you're just devastated. I'll just go do drugs or something. Why not get it in the bar when she, why in the course of the hours she was there? If it was known you could get it there, why go in the middle of the night in a parking lot and get it from some stranger? That's the part that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. Does that make sense?
So it was kind of an unconventional night for her. So I know she went to a bar that she was familiar with, but she was out pretty late and alone and bought alcohol.
Which
And was
is
just
odd.
yeah, sitting in her car, right?
For her to go, it is just that is it's unheard of for her. I mean, she didn't even like to drive in the snow. She was afraid to live in Baltimore. She would say she was afraid she was going to get shot. She would say that. She would tell my family that. So for her to go sit in the middle of the night in a parking lot and talk to a stranger that approached her vehicle, I mean, it's just none of it adds up. None of it ever. I mean, she would never do anything like that. She drove the janitor home. I mean, she had a heart of gold. She would do anything, but it's just almost like somebody put her up to all this or something. It doesn't add up.
I know that there were some witness accounts that maybe a conversation had happened between her and the man in what they described as the camouflage jacket.
Correct. Yes.
Do you know how long that conversation may have taken place?
I think it was a few minutes. There was, if that, she had made several phone calls in her call and from that phone,
Yep.
prior to that. But
Yep.
yeah, it wasn't, from what I'm learning from the police, it wasn't that long.
And then the gunshot went through the driver, like her side, the driver's side rear window. So driver's side rear window,
Correct.
right?
Into the back of the seat. And I believe it was a 38 caliber.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you know about that?
Oh, I was just curious. Like, is that like a is that the type of weapon that a certain occupation would possess, or someone connected to that occupation, like maybe police or security or something like that? If it was like a standard issue or something. The whole breakdown of this happening, like the bullet going through the driver's side rear window, it almost like plays out in my head as something was exchanged, conversation or something, and tempers were triggered,
Right.
or a temper was triggered, and it doesn't feel like it was planned.
Okay.
But it feels like after the fact, the person had enough wherewithal to say, I have to finish this and I have to be calm, which is really, really interesting that someone could be
Right.
calm in that situation after that happened. And it's a fact, because if this person wasn't calm, he wouldn't have continued with
Right.
the act. He would have
Right.
panicked and left, or he would have shot over and over into the car.
Right. Right.
The fact that it started moving made him calm and realize I have to continue this. I have to be smart about the next few things I do.
Right.
So I think you're talking about a certain type of person. And I don't want to say like military or anything like that, but I want to just say like if this was some drug dealer, some like tweaking kid who was up at 3:45 in the morning selling drugs, probably isn't acting this way. But I'm not positive.
Right. But you're right. Like you're making me think him being angry, because like I'm thinking in my head as you're saying all this, like, well, people just don't walk up and shoot people in Baltimore, but I guess they do. But I mean, in this scenario, to have a conversation and then shoot, like you said, there must have been some sort of anger, something that there was a heated something went on, right? Like, I mean, like,
In like a minute.
like you don't just have a conversation and shoot somebody.
Yeah, I want to hear more about the conversation that she had with someone with the same described jacket. So, do you think it's likely she spoke to her killer in the bar beforehand?
One of the persons of interest. So there was a bartender at the bar who had a friend. The bartender's friend's friend said he saw, I guess they were all in there one day after Jody died, and they saw something on the news, and he said, I saw Jody with this person of interest. So that was something that was like what the police tell me they were looking into. But then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, he had the wrong person. That guy's a druggie. He had the wrong person. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, or, he just had the wrong girl. But this guy was 100. I mean, because that's one of the people that I went to meet in Baltimore.
Oh, it is. Well, how did that go?
I mean, he could not be more clear and sure that he knew this person of interest, and that was Jody who he saw. And he just, he described sitting in the bar early on and seeing her picture. And the police told me they had interviewed him early on. That's one of the, I don't know how many different examples where he was never interviewed by them until I got them to interview him. And then they said, oh yeah, we interviewed him. They told me they had interviewed him way back when.
That's frustrating.
But that was a lie?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I met with him. I mean, I met with him several times, had phone conversations with him. And I mean, he was not out of his mind on drugs, but they're telling me he's a druggie. I mean, and I know somebody that's out of their mind on drugs. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe they're just, maybe they're trying to throw you off. Maybe he actually is a good person of interest.
Well,
no.
Oh, the other one. Oh, the person of interest. I thought you meant this guy. It's possible, but and he's another one that I had, because he was locked up, and I thought about reaching out to him, and then I heard he got out. So yeah, I mean, my mind's. I still have many plans of things that I'm going to do. As far as reaching out to people, and I mean, until they can solve her case, they're going to have my help on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying people's names. I'm just sort of trying to get information out there, because maybe somebody will hear something will click. They're saying like I'm messing up the investigation, and I'm like, what investigation? Because obviously there hasn't been a thorough one. There's no progress. If it was an investigation, it wouldn't have been sitting in the closet for years. And then all of a sudden it's an open investigation when I file a lawsuit. Oh, whoa, it's an active investigation. Well, how's it active if it's in a closet?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. Well,
yeah.
They just have that trap that they're ready to spring, and along comes you with your billboards.
Right. Is it an open investigation till I'm 6 feet under? I mean, like,
Exactly.
How does that work? Like, there's no. What's the rule with that? Like, how do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when does the line get crossed? When does the line get crossed between, now we're going to allow you in,
right?
Because it's just we've exhausted everything. But in the meantime, you're like, it's just been sitting in a closet.
Yeah.
Like, what were you really were you 24-hour surveillance on one particular person of interest and no one knew?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doubtful.
I mean, and I find, so many things. So I don't know how many years back I was doing an interview with one of the Baltimore stations. And so the bar, the Mount Washington Tavern, was a place where a lot of local reporters they would have media night, where they would go there after work. And so one of the cameramen who did one of my interviews, he said, I talked to Jody that night in the bar for like 20 minutes. Like it's just the craziest thing.
Wow.
And yeah. And so, and apparently like she was for a while, she was sitting by herself, which is sad to hear about, sitting alone by herself. And so the police never even interviewed him. I mean, and I'm thinking,
how's that possible?
exactly. Like,
And
wouldn't
what was it that did he tell you anything that she said to him?
I mean, nothing, I think it was just like just talking, it was nothing substantial, but the point is, you would think they'd go back and figure out, they all knew her in there. She had her friend, her bartender friend that she would sit and talk to. Like, who is she talking to? I mean, they know these media people. Like, it just, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just that I find so
Yeah.
many different things that weren't looked into. It just makes me think that they really missed a lot of. What else have they missed? Right?
Yeah, and you said pretty early on that this case just seems so solvable, especially early on.
Exactly. We should have put the Boy Scouts on it in the beginning.
Yeah. For
Seriously.
real.
So, I mean, and like, so one of the calls she made when she talked to her roommate's boyfriend, you remember that one where
Yeah.
so for years, I'm like, that just doesn't sit right with me. He knows where she is in that parking lot. Oh, well, he didn't drive. And then I'd ask later, what, because I would just continue to ask, what did he drive? Oh, I don't recall what kind of car he drove. Oh, he didn't drive. Like it was like it never like, like what? Did he drive or
Yeah.
did he not drive? And then, so yeah, so it came down to he didn't drive.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that phone call for anybody who doesn't know what that is?
She had a girl because she had a heart of gold that she moved in with her that she had waitressed with. And didn't have a place to go. I'm not really sure what was going on. Jody had her live with her and her boyfriend for a while, and then she moved out with her boy. Then eventually she, I guess, got into this relationship and was dating this cook at Fridays. That was one of the calls she made. Is she called her, I guess it was their place. It was, in the middle of the night, and didn't talk to the roommate, but talked to the boyfriend for 2.5 minutes, which is, I think, a pretty long time.
Yeah, long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, to know, where are you? What are you doing? Da, da, da. So I find out this spring, I finally get them to go back and talk to him 20 something years later. And turns out he had his friend with him. Does that make sense? So he didn't drive, but he's got a friend with him, and you find that out 23 years later.
So, Jenny, what is the next billboard that you plan to do? It seems you are you said in the Kate Snow special that you're addicted to these billboards. Are you working on another one?
I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be putting another one with my tip line that I have with my phone line. It's still the same one. You guys know that I did that I started my own line for
Yep.
tips.
Yep. And what is that line? What do people do if they have any tips?
So they call. So this one is just, it says, do you know who killed Jody LeCornu? $100,000 reward. And then with the tip line, it's 410-200-6284. Has the date, March 2nd, 1996. And then the Caldor Giant parking lot. Just trying to put a little information out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might jog somebody's memory, seeing that information.
Absolutely.
But I still, I mean, if you have any ideas, I'm constantly like, I still want to do more. It's just trying to figure out. I've wanted to do one to the president, but my mother's like, I'll probably get shot.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, I'm not like a political person, but it's more like an attention seeking.
Yeah, I think what you're doing right now is pretty solid. You're utilizing every corner of the media, and you've managed to use that as a weapon of choice for yourself,
I like
for
that.
your justice.
I'm
And
trying. I mean, I'm just constantly like, what can I do next? What can I get
I
that
think
would,
just
yeah,
more interviews, more
yeah,
FaceTime, more making eye contact, with everything. And that's just sort of a metaphor, right? It's just like get your face in front of everything that you possibly can, and your voice out there, and also make sure that that Jody is humanized in everything.
yeah.
Um, I hopefully we can get to this question. I'm curious what your relationship was with Jody. What was it like growing up with her? I think talking about things like that is important.
Oh yeah. I mean, we were inseparable. She was my best friend, and I mean, from till we were separated, when we went into treatment, they separated us. We were together. I mean, we shared the same room, had the same friends. I mean, it was like we were one. Um,
Yeah.
eh, we were known the twins. Like we were. It's almost like the twins are coming over. We always went to our friend's house together, or I mean, we were just, my mother always dressed us alike, but as we got older, um, she she was always like definitely like the more outgoing one. I was the shy one, and like I said, part of me's gone, and I was just so numb. I mean, I still get numb, and I can't. It's like I can't handle it, and but it's like my life is in constant motion because I can't. It's like I don't want to feel, I don't want to think, and it's maddening. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like I can't even um, enjoy life. Like it's like it's a lot. Like I said about it, it's just I don't know. It's like I feel like I don't even know how to describe it. Like I'm like a shell of a person or something. Like I'm just
Well, I mean, I think you're describing it a lot like people describe being, addicted to alcohol or drugs, where you not a day goes by where you don't think about this, where you don't think
yeah,
about how can I fill that void.
right.
And there's a void that
It
that
is. It's
that that was by no doing of your own was put on you.
right,
So
right.
so I can totally see that feeling like you this is something that you have that you can hold on to, that you can find justice for. And
Right.
a lot of people, I know you said you felt like a shell of a person, but a lot of people actually collapse under all that, and don't do all of this.
Well, I mean, I definitely, I mean, I do. I struggle. I mean, I mean, you've seen, I mean, I'm pretty open about it. I've struggled with depression and, I mean, a lot, and anxiety, and, um, I mean, there's just days that I just make myself, I mean, I have 3 children. They're my husband, eh, my mother, we lost my father to cancer, and that was just like another really horrible, horrible time. And but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm living life, if that makes sense. Like I just feel like I'm kind of here, and like I mean, just like the littlest things, like I like having fun. Like I was like, I don't even. I mean, it sounds so
Yeah.
crazy. Like my daughter's like, let's go play in the tree, and I'm like, oh, like it's like I'm sad. Like I just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't.
Your law was taken from you. You're 23 years old, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I look around and I'm like, just like I just don't feel like all these other people. I don't feel normal. Um, it's
Now, I apologize if I missed this somewhere, but do you ever go back to the parking lot and look at the scene?
yeah, I could not go for the longest time. And so I couldn't even go into Baltimore. I mean, just, yeah, I mean, until I just really got this drive. But I do, I have, I mean, for lots of interviews and, in, it was definitely really hard, but like, I can like go completely numb, like, and just go places like there now and just like I'm not even there. Like, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
just like I know I got to do this, so I'm going to be there and just completely am not like present, And that's like something
Yeah.
my husband says a lot because like over time, um, it's like he's like, you're not even here. Like I'm just, and I feel like I'm not. Like I mean, I feel like even like I feel like with my children, like I was sharing this too with when I was doing the interview with Kate Snow, like I just like my daughter talking to me and I'm like, I have no idea what she's saying because I'm like, I'm gone. Like I'm just, yeah. I mean, it's sad. It's I want to be here, but like, I mean, and I can't like I can't. I mean, I'm sitting still right now, but I mean, I can't even like I can't sit still like all day. It's like I'm either moving or I'm like passed out asleep. It's like it's weird. It's like I can't be with myself. I can't think. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's totally understandable. That makes it's actually kind of refreshing to hear somebody say this.
Yeah, I hate it.
It feels honest, which when we're doing this for so long, not a lot of people are that like flat out honest about something.
I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
living like this and the anxiety and and I isolate and a lot because, and I get overwhelmed very easily and um as far as being a mother and a wife and I'm very good at beating myself up like because like people are, like you were saying like you're doing good, you're doing that, but like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not like I'm but um like because like a lot of times I'm like really struggling inside, but I just always get up and I'd say 90 whatever percent of the time I'm like smiling, just put like a smile on my face, but and just like keep going,
Mm.
but it's like the letdowns, like too with our case, like every time I do something, I think this is it, something's going to happen, I'm gonna get this call. Like I was at work today and my attorney called who's still like, who helped me with the lawsuit. And I was like, oh my God, like my heart like stopped because I was like, something's happened, and it was nothing, it was just him checking in with me about something, but it's just this up, down, it's like,
Yeah.
it's very discouraging, and my mind, like I could start to be like, we're never gonna find our killer. And it's like I can't, I just can't like let myself go there, And then it's the whole thing with the guilt with my family, because it's taken me away from my family. And it's just like it's all of it. I mean,
Mm.
and you've talked to all these people that are going through all this, and it's I don't know, but I think, I got involved with, I think I told you this, Tim, with volunteering with hospice. And that's like been like a really great thing for me. I haven't been able to do much since I've had to work, like, a real job. But like I got to go on Thanksgiving and that's just like such a great thing for me, like to be able to be with people and the patients. And I mean, that's been like, because I really like to help people and be there for people. That makes me feel good. So that's something that makes me happy.
So that's good. So if you were to give a little piece of advice to people who have been through something similar, it would be, I would imagine, try to find something, that helps other people, that makes you feel good, and you can see a genuine result. You can see
Oh yeah. I
a
mean, if
like a tangible result of your actions.
right, right. And and that's like with every part of me. I mean, that's why I was open about my addiction and my eating disorder and Jody and I being as abused as we were young. And I mean, because I feel like so many people like have been through so many of those things. And if I can be open about it and talk about it and help people, maybe help somebody get help or something, I mean, I don't know if I can, but
Yeah.
that's important to me, but yeah, I mean, definitely like going out and helping others, and I'd like to be able to help I mean, I'm getting together. I've been talking with Steve Janis and some others, one of the reporters, that we're going to go, try to work on some legislation, with helping. We're going to call it Jody's Law, with like trying to help, with the victims, with helping, with the police, with that there should be some laws in place about with cold cases and things like that. So we're getting together this month and just try to figure. Do you know what I mean? Like trying to, so people don't have to go through all this. Like there should be some protocols or what I don't know the right words. But I think there should be some accountability for the police and just it's just like I just feel like they shouldn't be able to just get away with. And I'm not trying to. I mean, it sounds like I've been very negative about the police. I mean, I knew many police growing up because my dad was a prosecutor, and it's just my hell that I've been through, and I would not wish this on anybody. Um, Having to deal with this, and if I can help other families not have to do this. I mean, even the treatment. I mean, you have a somebody in your family that's murdered, and I go and meet with the police, and their lawyer slams the door in my face, and the prosecutor is just shitty to me, and I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. You would think I was the criminal because I want to find out who shot my sister.
Yeah, we hear that story a lot with other people, and you're right. There does need to be some sort of protocol that's put in place because you can't just simply say, "Well, other cases come in, and this one is falling down the priority ladder, so that it is what it is," and you throw your hands up. I get it. I get that they're understaffed, and I get that there's a problem with crime, and it's not going to stop. But you can't just simply say, "Well, is what it is." There has to be something in place. I mean, we can find money to drop a bomb on some country. Why can't we find money to help in this situation? Yeah, and you were just talking about this. You don't know if there's this void inside of you. What that's gonna like is bringing this killer to justice going to fill that? So there also has to be that other side of like there needs to be some sort of counseling involved with the whole. Has to be a whole spectrum of it, or else you're just stuck forever. And that's not right. That's not right to the victims, and them and their families deserve a lot better.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, they've never offered any sort of love or support or anything. You know what I mean? It's more like the opposite. And and I understand. I mean, I wanted to make that clear. Like, I do not expect Jody's case to be more special than anybody else's, but I expect the basics to be done. The not that I'm not a detective, but just when you see all these things that haven't been done, I mean, that's what's so discouraging and frustrating. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
like do
Yeah.
do your job, like, you know what I mean? And if you don't want to do your job, let the family get a private investigator.
Yeah.
Like if you're overwhelmed, then why can't you get outside help?
Well, Jenny, yeah, your journey is heartbreaking, and we're here for you and here with you, and let us know how we can help.
Oh, you guys are wonderful. I want to meet you guys in person.
Yeah,
That's my
let's.
next. What's my plan? That's my
Great.
next plan. That's my
All
next
right.
plan.
Yeah, let's
I'm
work
working on
on
a
that.
thing. I'm also we absolutely have to do that.
Absolutely.
We'll just get our own like group with Sarah because I want to meet Sarah. She's like the biggest badass on the planet.
I actually don't know if the room will be able to exist with the three of you in there. I think it's going to be too it's going to be too overwhelming.
We should do a podcast with all of us.
I think
What do you think?
that's a dangerous idea. No,
You do?
I think it's great. I think that's a great idea.
I think it would be a good thing.
I think just getting
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
together, I think instantly maybe 10 cases will get solved.
Yes.
Just because we're all in the same room.
Let's do it. All right. I'm going to plan it. I'm going to put it out there.
Love it.
All right.
And you
yeah,
you
let's-
heard my
let's-
husband. I don't take no for an answer. That cracked me up. Did you see that part?
Yeah.
Yes.
I get what I want.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Jenny, on Crawl Space.
God, thanks for putting a smile on my face. I admire you guys, and I think you're great. And I'm really grateful that you are talking to me and helping me, and it means so much. You have no idea. Like, I was really, speaking of like crumbling, I was not having a good day, and I'm ending it really well. So thanks to you guys.